Alright, I thought we'd do a show and tell here with Rubber Stamp Madness, issue number 49, volume 11, January, February 1990. That's going quite a ways back. Price is $4 at the time. But look at this. This magazine right here used to be tabloid size. I had to really raise up my tripod here, and it's not even raised up all the way. I can see it. It doesn't even show, but just to give you an example of how big this tabloid size magazine was, this is a recent copy of Rubber Stamp Madness, so you can fit two of them here. See this right here, here, and here. So we're talking quite large, and they changed the size because it wasn't practical for things like newsstands and things like that. They couldn't have you can't have this like at a Borders or Barnes & Noble bookshelf or any of the other craft stores. It just didn't fit on the rack. So that was changed, but this was always really cool to have this arriving in the mail. It was something. It's like a newspaper, basically. So cover here, it says to stamp out stress and avoid boredom on business trips, Irma always brings along her entire rubber stamp collection. And there's all these luggage pieces here, and probably rubber stamps of rubber stamps. Back in the day, I could see a lot of them are little eraser carvings, which were very popular at the time in terms of rubber stamp imagery. You don't see new ones like that these days, but a lot of the early rubber stamps images came from eraser carvings, because that's what people would do to make their own rubber stamps. You carve into like a Statler Mars style of eraser with linoleum block cutters and X-Acto blades and so on and so forth, and you can make your own rubber stamp out of it. So a lot of those early stamps were eraser carvings. A couple of the Ken Brown images from Rubber Stamps of America on the cover here. Let's take a look inside. I always kind of find going back into these magazines somewhat or very interesting, but it's not usually just for the content. It's for the ads. Look at Stamp Francisco's gigantic full-page ad right here. All right, I tend to get caught in going over everything, when I start flipping through these things, because it brings back a lot of memories. But 1990 is going really far back for me in terms of rubber stamping. I wasn't really stamping at the time. I was designing stamps for a Stamp the Hand company, but mostly just doing production things. I was making their stamps, helping out at shows, running the register at various craft fairs. We'd go into these different boutiques and outdoor, little festival types of things and selling stamps there. And we'd go with Kathy, and I might be doing I don't know, we didn't even have a cash register. I'd be doing the cash box and, writing up receipts for people and things like that on the weekends. But Imaginaire designs, really tight, detailed designs of airplanes, aircraft. Look at this Judykins. It's a really small little ad down here for them. Probably when they just kind of early on in their incarnation. What is this? The Stamp Pad Company, Big Lake, Minnesota. Alex stamping. Look at this mugshots. Your face on a rubber stamp, so you can send it in a photograph, and they would get a halftone of it made, apparently, and make that into a rubber stamp. So there's just someone's photo there. It's not even, who knows what that would look like in the stamped image. They would have to get a certain type of halftone made of that, and they'd have to make up a plate of that. I don't think they were doing clear stamps at the time, but they might have. But that's really expensive to do, because you'd have to wait to get an entire plate made up, and you're just talking about a one-time stamp. You probably don't want 10 of those for yourself. So, but those are the types of things you saw being done back in these early days. You'd have your own address stamps, where you can put your own address into it, and there was certain types of formats that were available. Rubber to the rescue. What is that? Stamp out stress. I don't know. Maybe we can use that these days. I don't know. People are stressed, but, having to stay at home and stuff like that, it's not a fun time or whatnot. But, I don't know. It looks like it's talking about self-expression and breaking free, maybe the creative process. Different types of little... It seems like you'd see this type of thing in that... what do you call it? I need to change the exposure of my camera here. Let me do that really fast. Okay, a little bit brighter. All this white light reflecting up at my camera has kind of darkened things a little bit, but look at the different types of collage-y styles of stamping right here. Just, making these little figures out of different stamps and whatnot. In the magazine, I don't think at this time there's a little bit of one-color printing on the inside here. I guess at the time you can take out an ad. You can have like a two-color ad if you want to. At the time, they weren't doing full color at the time, obviously. Palo Alto rubber stamps. I used to see these ads. I didn't subscribe to Rubberstampmadness probably until this 1990. Like I said, I wasn't doing a lot of stamping, but I was designing some stamps for a Stamp of the Hand company periodically, and it wasn't just nature designs. I think I came out with nature designs maybe about this time in 1990, but then in 91 I came out with kind of a larger collection of scenic stamping images, and that's when I started using the stamps. But I was doing things like, coloring stamps and things like that, and doing that type of thing for indexing. Here's C Spot Run. That was in the farmer's market. I'm from California, Southern California, and I seem to recall seeing this store in the farmer's market there. Farmer's market's a real famous kind of touristy spot. I don't think a rubber stamp, store could possibly go in there. That area there is probably like super high rent these days. Palo Alto rubber stamps. I really used to like seeing their ads, though, and this guy named Curtis Oweda, who later came out with his own company and line of stamps, was the one that was designing for them. So I'd always see these ads, and I think, these are really cool, and whoever's doing their designs really knows what he's doing. And later I found it turned out to be him. Look, Ma, no Vulcanizer. Whatever that means. Adventures with a stamp-making machine. Oh, there's these little stamp-making machines, probably by some kind of Japanese company, if it was them, where you can make your own, I believe it was clear stamp. It wasn't actually rubber, but I don't know. I'm not going to read this whole article here, but vulcanizing is the machine that you use to press your rubber. It's basically this hot iron, oven press, for the pressing of your rubber. Bizarro, the Rubber Room. I recognize a lot of these sunlight impressions. Boy, I haven't thought about them in a long time. Getting a handle. What makes a good mount? Varieties of mount. A lot of people do not know what a wood-mounted rubber stamp is, these days. They've only used clear stamps, a lot of people that started stamping at some point in time, but this is talking about the different types of molds right here. There were some wood-mounted stamps that had the cushion already built into it, and you would just have to rubber cement the die onto that cushion right there. This Versadex one was the one that we used to use over at a Stamp of the Hand that had this little paper thing that went in there that kind of drove me nuts, having to color all those things and knowing that those things would fade out, so I switched us over to color copies at some point in time. Straight mounts. PSX used to use this type of thing, but then they would bevel the sides. Amazing mount they had there. 1-inch mount, the Scandinavian mount, these things were huge right there, and I used them briefly, but then I went back, to this 3/4 inch size. I used so many different mounts over the years because, I don't know, certain types of companies, they kind of drop the ball, or, you never knew when you were going to get your order, and sometimes they were, I don't know, damaged. This is interesting right here, the rocker mount. I don't know if you can see that real well, but it was a rounded one, so maybe with larger stamps you could roll, your stamp out. That's kind of interesting. It seems like it would do the trick, because it would focus the impression pressure that you're applying in one little area at a time. And I know some people that are starting to use some stamps on rounded surfaces, curved surfaces like bowls and vases and things like that, wood turners, and possibly something like that could possibly work. Maybe this is working in the opposite direction. Maybe it needs to be like let me see, instead of convex, is it concave? I don't know. I can't remember think of it. But maybe that needs to be something that could be revisited in terms of potential. This is an ad by Gumbo Graphics down here. I used to really love their images. That was one of my favorite companies back in the day. Interior spread here with color printing. I don't know how they did that. This would have to be done specifically for this page, or they would have to do color separations like this. So I don't know how they did this interior spread here. Obviously, a Valentine's Day themed issue. The Happy Stamper. Oh, the Happy Stamper in Colorado. I taught at this store, one of the first stores, if not the first rubber stamping store. I'm guessing, I don't know, in the Denver area here, but I went to the one in that Cherry Creek area. So if you're out there in that Denver area, the Happy Stamper was located right down here. There's another one right here in Aurora, but I don't seem to recall that one being around when I went out there. I think it was just one store, but a really fun trip. I enjoyed my trips to Denver. Whenever I took those trips out there, I did a convention out there too. Look at this right here, Ranger Industries. They were more of an industrial type of ink supplier, and then they started supplying things for the rubber stamp industry, and I'd imagine that became their dominant product. I have no idea, but look at this, kind of a smaller ad. They didn't have any designers at the time, I'm sure. Look at this, Stickles. I had no idea they're the ones that did Stickles, that little glitter kind of I don't know what it's not glue, but that glitter kind of fluid. I have some of that still somewhere. Quarter Moon, I believe that was Donnie, and then she was the one that put on the San Jose and kind of Bay Area stamp conventions, and then eventually Kat from Stamp in the Hand took over for that. Let's see here. A feel for stamping. She is... I don't know. Let's see. She had eye surgery, so maybe hard of couldn't see very well or something like that. There's Braille, things here. So an article on her here. Museum of Modern Rubber. A little feature in catalog and review. Used to really love their images, as I've mentioned in other show and tells. Hippo Heart taught there before in the Bay Area. Fun Times, that was a store and a manufacturer. Sunlight Impressions. There's a lot of these companies, like these little ads that I don't recall them, but some of them, there's a small ad, then, a lot of these got much bigger. Okay, look at this, look, Clear Snap right here. They just closed up this last year, but look at this, the first rollograph stamp right down here. We're going to roll out those patterns, and the pigment ink rainbow pads. Look at that gigantic gold and silver pad. I don't even recall that, but I don't know. Maybe they still made these. These don't look so dated because I thought they still carried those types of things, right to the end. I could be mistaken though. But anyways, you can see how gigantic this this magazine was, and it was, the rubber stamp industry was getting a lot of, starting to gain a lot of steam at this time. So around this 1990 area. It started really exploding though, kind of in the early 90 through 91. That's when there was like tons of stores and manufacturers popping up everywhere. Graven Images. I really liked their images a lot. I would go into Stampa Barbara. This really big store with a lot of stamps in there. But I'd find myself drawn to Graven Images. I'd pick up a stamp or two, or mid-90s or something like that, and it was like, oh, okay, there's another one of their images. It's theirs, so I really liked whoever was doing the art for them. But yeah, 100 Proof Press, always one of my favorite companies. But this is probably from the first owner, I'm guessing. It's changed hands a couple times, but a really great collection of images, and I still like them. A lot of the old engravings, but a really nice curated grouping of images. And Stampa Barbara always had this backsplash page of all of their new images. Okay, they would often buy out a lot of other companies too. So they had a gigantic collection of images, and he never came out with a catalog. Maybe it was too hard, because we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of images, but he never came out with a hard copy catalog. This is pre-internet, of course. So he would say, well, his thing would be, well, you just look at the back of Rubberstampmadness, and you'll have, a nice indication of all of their images that they offer, which didn't include all those companies that they acquired or bought, but it was all of their individual images. So one of the first companies too doing kind of modular stamping here. So I'm guessing like right here. Oh, this is all hearts, for the Valentine's Day themed magazine. You didn't have to do a theme in your ads, but they would just put it out there that was going to be the theme of the issue. So all these little cities and stuff, of course, these little buildings could be used together. So kind of a real good form of modular stamping. They had like swimming pools that they would do, and like all these other little characters that would go with the swimming pool. So really ahead of its time, progressive in terms of kind of the ways you would use stamps, or people could use stamps, being put out by Rubberstampmadness, and kind of the vision of Gary Dorothy, their owner. So anyways, yeah, going way back, early times. I don't think I have anything from the 80s. I might. If it is, it was just like a magazine that I picked up when they used to come and sell their back issues and take subscriptions at the Carson convention back when. So I don't know, fun times going back and looking through this type of thing, and just seeing kind of what was around at the time. This is a pretty thick issue right here, so there's a lot of ads in here, a lot of different companies and content at this point in time. So yeah. And then, I don't know, things got really crazy. Let me see if it had their advertisers. Yeah, see this advertisers index right here. So pretty extensive, I mean, that's not a small amount, but I would imagine at one time it probably became double that, so they, I don't know if they took every ad possible, if there was a limit, to that. I'm not really quite sure, but fun times looking back. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions as far as other types of show and tells, let me know. I was looking for an Expression magazine, and I had a bunch of them. I'm not sure if I got rid of them. I didn't think I got rid of any magazines from back in the day, but apparently I have, because I can't find any of those, and they weren't around for too long, but I was going to look through one of those at some point in time, so I will if I can find one. Okay, thanks for watching.